Hi, my name is Rebecca Purifoy, and I'm going to be presenting on Erik Erikson, a pioneer of psychology and his stages of psychosocial development for my project for Psychological Foundations class. Erik Erikson was alive from 1902 to 1994. And a quote that I found that I really love from him is, "Hope is both the earliest and the most indispensable virtue inherent in the state of being alive. If life is to be sustained, hope must remain, even where the confidence is wounded, trust impaired." Erik was born in Frankfurt, Germany on June 15th, 1902. He was his mother's child from the result of an extramarital union. He was raised alone by his mother, Carla Abrahamson, before she married a physician named Dr. Theodor Homburger. He never met his birth father or his mother's first husband. The truth about his biological father was hidden from him for years. Once learning the truth about who his father was, he was often confused about who he was and how he fit into his community. At Jewish temple, he was teased for being a tall, blue-eyed, blonde-haired boy who looked different from everyone else. And at grammar school, he was rejected because of his Jewish background. His early experiences of confusion over who he was sparked his interest in identity formation study. In his professional and personal life, Erikson had interest in history, Latin, and art while studying at Das Humanistische Gymnasium, which is a type of German secondary school focusing on classical humanities. He briefly attended art school, but dropped out and instead traveled through Europe with friends, even though his stepfather wanted him to go to medical school. He did receive a teaching invitation for a progressive school created by Dorothy Burlingame, who was friends with Anna Freud. He had a great rapport with children and was encouraged to study psychoanalysis. He met a Canadian dance instructor at the school where he taught. Her name was Joan Serson. They fell in love and got married in 1930 and had 3 children of their own. The couple moved to the United States in 1933, and sometime after that, he formally changed his name from Erik Homburger to Erik Erikson, possibly in search of his true identity. He never received a formal degree in medicine or psychology. He was offered a teaching position at Harvard Medical School, even with no formal degree. He received 2 certificates, though, one from Montessori Teachers Association and one from Vienna Psychoanalytic Institute. He even opened a private practice in child psychoanalysis. He held various teaching positions over the years, including the University of California at Berkeley, Yale, San Francisco Psychoanalytic Institute, Austin Riggs Center, Center for Advanced Studies of the Behavioral Sciences. And he published many books, including Childhood and Society, The Life Cycle Completed, and then his book entitled Gandhi's Truth was awarded a Pulitzer Prize and a National Book Award. He contributed to several theories in the field of psychology. His best-known theories describe psychosocial development and identity. Erik Erikson stated that there are 8 stages healthy individuals pass through from birth to death. He claimed that at each stage we encounter different needs and ask new questions and meet new people who influence our behavior and our learning. The first stage is called the basic trust versus mistrust stage. And in this stage, are infants aged 1 to 2 years, and they ask the question, can I trust the world and is it safe? In this stage, we learn that if we can trust someone now, we can trust others in the future. Fear experienced during this stage creates doubt and mistrust in the future. The mother's role is crucial here in this stage. When a baby cries, mom answers. The baby learns they can trust that they're safe. This is a very important part of development. The second stage is called autonomy versus shame and doubt, and this is for children aged 2 to 4. And this is what happens when they experience themselves and discover their bodies. They realize they're separate from mom. They ask the question, is it okay to be me? And if they're allowed to discover self, then they develop self-confidence. But if they're not allowed to discover self, shame and self-doubt can develop. In this stage, both parents play a major role because they have realized they're not the same as mom. They're separate. And so now they see themselves in relation to both mom and dad. The third stage is initiative versus guilt. Children aged 4 to 5 years take initiative and try new things out and learn basic principles, like, why do round things roll? They ask the question, is it okay for me to do what I do? If encouraged, they can follow their interests, but if discouraged, they develop guilt. Learning from the entire family is now important, not just mom, not just dad, but the whole family is who they learn from. The fourth stage comes along for school-age children between the ages of 5 and 12 years, and this stage is called the industry versus inferiority stage. And here, students develop their own interests and realize they are different from others. They desire to demonstrate the ability to do things right, and they ask themselves the question, can I make it in this world? Positive feedback during this stage leads to becoming hardworking, but too much negative feedback leads to feelings of inferiority and loss of motivation. During this stage, our neighbors and schools now influence us the most, so we get a lot of feedback from people outside of our home. The next stage is the identity versus role confusion stage, and this is people aged 13 to 19, or the adolescent stage. And here people learn that they have different social roles, including being friends, students, children, and citizens. Many experience crisis in identity in this stage and ask the question, who am I? If allowed by parents to explore, an identity can be found. But if parents force adolescents to conform to who they want them to be, who the parent wants them to be, role confusion is more likely to occur. Peers and role models are the primary sources of learning in this stage. So people are looking to their friends and to people who they look up to learn from and decide who they want to be or who they are. The sixth stage is the intimacy versus isolation stage. In this stage, young adults aged about 20 to 40 begin to understand who they are, and they let go of relationships built earlier just to fit in. They ask the question, can I love? If they are able to make long-term commitments, they feel happy and confident. If they're unable to form intimate relationships, feelings of isolation and loneliness develop. Friends and partners are central to development in this stage. The next stage, the seventh stage, is called generativity versus stagnation. This stage happens in adults aged 40 to 65, and they begin to become comfortable and use leisure time creatively. They may begin to contribute to society and ask themselves, how can I contribute? Leading the next generation brings people in this stage happiness. Earlier unresolved conflicts can cause bitterness and stagnation. In this stage, people at the workplace and in the home have the most influence. And then the eighth and final stage is called ego integrity versus despair. In this stage, adults aged 65 until they die begin to slow down and look back over their lives. They ask themselves the question, how have I done? If one feels they did well, they develop contentment and integrity. But if not, they can develop despair and bitterness. During this stage, self-reflection, as well as support from family and community, affects people. So you don't necessarily get influenced only by outside sources, but now you're really being influenced by your own. How do you feel about how you've done? All right, so who are some of the people who influenced Erik Erikson as he set up this psychoanalytic theory about how we influence each other? One of them was Anna Freud, and she encouraged Erikson to study psychoanalysis and supervise his training analysis. She was also actually his therapist. He paid her $7 a week and explained in his later life that psychoanalysis was much simpler then than it was in his more mature years. Sigmund Freud met Erikson at a party. Erikson initially continued to work on Freud's theory of psychosexual development before developing his own ideas. Another person who influenced Erikson was John Dollard, and he was a colleague, and he encouraged Erikson's interest in extending Freudian theories across lifespan and into cross-cultural research. Another thing that influenced Erikson was the Montessori method itself, which is a method that focuses on child development. Erikson's claim to fame is that he coined the term identity crisis and described it as a normal and often necessary period of exploration and confusion that adolescents go through to develop a stable sense of self. He stated that successfully navigating this crisis during the identity versus role confusion stage is crucial for developing a strong sense of self that integrates their physical, social, and occupational selves. In Erik's later life, he retired from Harvard in the year 1970. He and his wife, Joan, moved back to California and continued writing about personality and life cycle development. The couple returned to Cambridge, Massachusetts to live with a communal household of younger academics who could assist Joan with Erik as his health declined. He continued to informally supervise therapists until his death. He died in Cambridge in 1994 at the age of 91. Why is Erik's theory important in the field of education? It's a foundational concept in early childhood education, and it has been for years. It emphasized that parents and educators are integral in supporting and encouraging the success a child has in life at every psychological stage of development. As educators provide the support that is appropriate for the stage of their students, it results in a positive learning experience. And it states that older children's social emotional development goes hand in hand with the development and subsequent success of early childhood curriculum. Educators can use this theory and the stages of it to instill healthy development and hope into each student, bringing about a better academic and personal outcome throughout their entire lives. Hope is both the earliest and the most indispensable virtue inherent in the state of being alive. If life is to be sustained, hope must remain, even where confidence is wounded, trust impaired. I believe that Erikson's theory of psychosocial development prepares educators with the information needed to understand best how to give our students hope and the skills to continue finding it that can influence them throughout their entire lives. I very much enjoyed studying Erik Erikson. Here are some of the sources that I used to find information on him.